One of my favorite fights of all times. This one's going in the books as one of my favorite fights of all time. The hype was, well, for those who know fighting, you were really hyped up for this fight. It wasn't the one with the most media production behind it, no, but for the hardcore fans, you know this was a mega fight, an ultra mega fight for the books. Why? Questionably the two best pound for pound fighters. Who is it? Makhachev or Volkanoski? And they're in the same octagon at the same time in the same place, and we had them fight, and the fight didn't let down. The fight was incredible. There was a seesaw battle, controversy as usual, lots of controversy, and we're gonna go over all of it in this episode, and I think we're gonna have a good time as well. Yes, I believe Islam Makhachev won the fight. Yes, he won the rounds. We're going to break it down. I'm going to get in full details. But yes, did Islam Makhachev win the fight? Yes. I did a watch party during the fight. And before the judges announced it, I told you guys that I thought Makhachev won the fight. I can't see it any other way. And now we're going to get on the details on why. In round 2, when Volkanoski blitzed Islam Makhachev and Makhachev went for a level change, he stumbled. He didn't get hit by any punches. He missed a shot, and the crowd went wild. So people watching it on TV, it happened so fast. You see a guy drop, a crowd yell. It makes you think, oh, Volkanoski knocked him down. He didn't, guys. Rewatch the fight. Watch it in slow motion. They show it to you after round 2. They show you what happened in round 2. So after round 2, when the guys are sitting on the stool, you have it on the Jumbotron. They put the replay. The punch doesn't make contact. Volkanovski's punch does not make contact. The hardest shot in round 2 was landed by Islam Makhachev. Volkanovski was a little bit busier. Islam landed a hard punch that stunned Volkanovski. He landed the better shot, and he had a very partial takedown. Now, not much happened in round 2. It was very even. But I gave it to Islam Makhachev because he landed a very hard left hand. He countered beautifully. He countered Volkanovski beautifully, and he had a bit of a partial takedown, which I didn't give him much points for, but he landed the best strike of the round. It was a close round, but in my opinion, it went to Islam Makhachev. So we have round 2 for Makhachev, round 1 and 2 for Makhachev, round 3 for Volkanovski. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. Round 3, guys, forgive me. I'm just getting over a cold. This is my tail end of the cold. Forgive me for my voice. Round 4, nobody's going to argue, guys. Please don't tell me you think that those punches Volkanovski was throwing were anything, okay? He was just doing that to rile up the crowd. Islam Makhachev was on the back for the long majority of the round. It was a dominant round for Makhachev. Now, I'm not saying it's a 10-8 round, but it's definitely a dominant round for Makhachev, okay? Because when you're on the back for the entire round, you're basically saying, look, I'm in complete control of this fight. Round 5 goes to Volk. We can't argue. We cannot argue. So that leaves you at best 3-2 for Makhachev. Now, I even personally, when I was watching it live, I gave round 3 a draw. So I don't want to say round 3 was a total blowout, but now I rewatched it. I can see why people are saying Volk won it. Okay, I rewatched it. Okay, so at best we have a 3-2 for Islam Makhachev. Now here's what I think most people are hung up on. Makhachev looked human. He looked like he had flaws. He didn't finish strong. Volkanovski was, if he had a 6th round, might have, dominated round 6. That is true. That is all true. But it's a 5-round fight. And here's the thing that I overlooked in my pre-fight analysis. I did mention it, but I didn't emphasize it enough because I didn't think it was going to be such a problem. Volkanovski has a lot more 5-round experience than Makhachev. Makhachev has never done a 5th round, and he didn't do a good job in round 5. Where Volkanovski has had multiple 5-round fights that have gone the distance with elite fighters. Just case in point, Max Holloway. He did 3 5-rounders with Max Holloway, one of the toughest 5-round fighters ever in terms of pace and pressure. So Volk is very acclimated to the 5th round pressure, the volume needed in round 5. Islam was not. Something happened in the 5th round that nobody's talking about. Islam Makhachev was doing really good in the early part of the 5th round. Very good. He grabbed Volkanovski in a body lock. And to my surprise, Volkanovski countered with a Yoko Sumigeshi, a butterfly hook, which I'm going to credit Craig Jones for. If he didn't have that hook, that jiu-jitsu counter, round 5 would have went to Islam Makhachev easily. Let me tell you why, okay? In freestyle wrestling, you cannot put your back to the floor. It's not like collegiate wrestling. In American wrestling, you can expose your back to the floor. Not in freestyle. In freestyle, if you do that, you lose points. The other guy scores points on you. He scores exposure points. Makhachev is not used to seeing guys do this kind of wrestling counter. Guys, watch round 5. At one point, Volkanoski blitzes Islam Makhachev. Makhachev body locks him, brings him down, an easy takedown, like it's just everything. He's got everything he needs to bring him down. And then Volkanoski uses a beautiful jiu-jitsu maneuver. He uses a butterfly hook in a yoko, like a backside butterfly hook. It's called a yoko sumigeshi. And he elevates Islam Makhachev. He times it beautiful. He times it beautifully. Off balances him, breaks the takedown. He was deep in the takedown. It's like watching a gazelle fully locked into a crocodile's mouth, and somehow the gazelle escapes. A baby gazelle somehow, some way got out. I bet you Islam Makhachev is not really aware of these kind of counters because he's so heavy in freestyle wrestling that they don't have these kind of counters. They don't do this kind of behavior because it will cost them points in their style. He flipped it around, and that took out the steam from Islam Makhachev. Makhachev shoots another takedown later in the round and then pulls guard. That's what nobody noticed. Did you guys notice that Islam Makhachev pulled guard? He shot, failed shot, and then he rolled to his back in the last minute of the fight. Now, he had gotten hit before that, but I don't think he was too discombobulated. I think it was just him wanting to just get the fight to the ground any which way. He didn't want to attempt another takedown, which shows me that he has a lot to improve in terms of 5 rounds, in terms of doing 5 rounds. Now, he's had a lot of early finishes. The furthest he's ever gone is round 4. I think now he's going to grow a lot from this 5-round experience. Having a hard 5 round, I think is going to teach him a lot. He's going to go back to the drawing board. He's going to adjust the way he's training. The next time these two meet, and I think they probably will meet again. It's possible. It's not impossible. It's possible. Very possible. I think Islam is going to have grown a lot, okay? Because I think he took so much from this. Learning to fight a 5 hard round fight is not an easy thing, and I think we see why. Because so many things can happen in round 5, and Volkanoski had that 5-round experience. He had the edge in that 5-round experience. In my estimation, guys, the only way I could see it is Islam won at least 3 rounds out of 5. I can't see how Volkanoski could have taken 3 rounds. I just don't see it. I believe Islam had, if Islam had more time to rehydrate, he would have been much stronger. That's from Jerry Bergen. You know, that's interesting because they asked Volkanoski in the corner. I think it was after round 2. His coach asked him, is he strong? And Volkanoski said, no, he's not strong. I think you're right. I'll tell you something. Fighting in Australia is not an easy thing to do because your whole time, your whole like rhythm, your circadian rhythm is all thrown out of whack. Like I've been to Australia, we've competed in Australia. It's tough. Why? Because you're competing at like 2 in the afternoon. It's it's nighttime here, it's daytime there. You're on the other side of the planet. Okay, now I don't know how hard it is for him from Russia, but it's just the other side of the planet. Islam has a hard weight cut. He's in a foreign land. Your diet's not always the same. The foods are not all the same. There's a lot of acclimation. I don't know how early he went to Australia because I would have went a month earlier. If it was a title fight, I think I would go 1 month before, which I don't think he did. But that can heavily affect your cardiovascular ability. Should Islam have engaged more with level changes instead of countering? That's from Abdul A. Well, let me tell you something, Abdul. The best shots he landed were counters. In round 2, he saved round 2 with a massive counter. Volk threw a big right hand. Islam slipped it and countered him with a left that shook. It shook Volk down to 1 knee. We didn't talk about this earlier. Volk touched his knee down to the ground. Let me just talk about something really, really important here, okay? In the world of boxing, they're always trying to decide. You have to differentiate between a slip and a knockdown. Now, most of the time, okay, because don't forget, two boxers, when they fight, they sign a contract, they agree on the rules, and you can have certain flexibility in the rules. If I throw a punch and it connects to your body, and I'm talking about boxing now, not MMA, and any part of your body touches the ground other than the soles of your feet, it's a knockdown. I'm going to say that again, okay? If I throw a punch and it grazes your shoulder and your knee touches the ground, that's a knockdown. They're not going to rule it a slip. Now, if I throw a punch and you block it, or I miss you completely, and you slip and your hand touches the ground or your knee touches the ground, that's a slip. But sometimes we can argue whether was that a knockdown, was that a slip, was that a knockdown, was that a slip. It's a very difficult thing to decide. Sometimes somebody's slipping, but they got hit at the same time, and was it a slip, was it a knockdown? Like, for instance, in round 2, when Volkanoski rushes Islam Makhachev, Islam level changes for a shot at the same time, and when he does so, he kind of slipped. He slipped before Volkanoski ever made any contact. Actually, if you watch the replay, Volkanoski doesn't make any contact at all. There's actually no punches that touch Islam Makhachev's body. However, if you guys don't know this, between the canvas and the cage, there's a gap. Okay, there's a gap. And when you're sparring and wrestling, I spar in a cage all the time, guys, your foot gets caught in that gap. I've seen it a million times in professional fighting, in the gym every day. I'm literally in that cage every single day. There's a little gap between the fence and the canvas. Islam Makhachev's foot slips in that gap. He stumbles, he shoots. It was a bad shot. The crowd goes wild. It looks like Volk knocked him down, but he didn't. The actual knockdown that happened in round 2 was Islam Makhachev connecting with a left hand that dropped Volk. It dropped Volk down to one knee. Now, Volk barely touched the ground, but he still touched the ground. Now, in boxing, that would be a knockdown. In MMA, there's no such rule. Okay, so I don't want to conflate the two. I'm just telling you, like, in boxing, like, they have to go in there with a scalpel on what a knockdown is, because every knockdown results in a point. If me and you are fighting and I knock you down, and I win that round, it's a 10-8 for me, because I get a point for that knockdown. Okay, so it's not the same rules in the MMA. What I'm trying to tell you is it's really hard to differentiate sometimes between a knockdown and a slip. And two world-class martial artists can watch the same slip/knockdown and disagree on whether it was a slip or a knockdown. How I like to decide is to see how the fighter reacts. Did he slip or did he get knocked down? Well, look, is he discombobulated? Is he losing his balance? Is he wrestling really sloppy? Is he like, being inactive? Is he like, does he seem like his eyes are out of focus? Or does he keep chain wrestling and his energy is high and he's performing like he naturally would? I like to look at the aftermath. Now, Volk, when he got hit with that left hand in round 2, he stumbled, he backed up, he took 3-4 good giant steps. Exactly what a guy does when he needs an extra few seconds to regain his bearings. Okay, when you get hit hard, you get that double vision, you don't know where you are. You take 3-4 steps, it comes back, and you're back in the game. That's what I saw. Volk got caught with a big left hand, so countering for Islam Makhachev actually worked really well. Now, you're asking me, what should he have done? I would tell you this, okay? Notice in the fight, Islam Makhachev, when Volk would blitz him, he would grab Volk in a Muay Thai plum. Every time he did it, it scored beautifully. That's what he needed to do. Keep Volk at a distance, and when Volk blitzes you, go into the Thai plum. Every time he did it, it worked beautifully. He threw knees to the body. What he didn't do is he didn't elbow off a plum. He should have done knee, elbow, knee, elbow. If he did it more in the fight, if he did it from bell to bell, if he did it from the beginning all the way to round 5, he would have done a lot better. It would have looked a lot cleaner. Now, there's other things I would have done with him, but I can't explain it now because it would be too complicated and it would be a huge tangent. But I'll tell you something you can go visually review. Watch that fight again. Every time he went to the Muay Thai plum, for those who don't know what the Muay Thai plum is, it's when you clinch somebody behind the neck. You put your 2 hands behind their neck and you kind of pull their head down and you're throwing knees. Okay, you've all seen it. It's a famous Muay Thai maneuver. It's classic Muay Thai maneuver. You trap the guy from behind his head and you knee him in the face, you knee him in the body. What Makhachev didn't do is he didn't throw knees to the face. There are techniques that are very powerful for throwing knees to the face, and he didn't elbow off the plum. If he did so, it could have been a very, very different game. So if you look at, I think it was round 4, Makhachev caught Volkanoski in the plum. And guys, when you plum, it's usually the taller fighter catching the shorter fighter in a plum. Why? Because as the shorter fighter closes the distance to punch the taller fighter, he runs into a catch-22. That plum now doesn't allow him to punch because it can stuff heavily. It can heavily stuff your punching ability because somebody's pulling your head down. So as you're punching, you have these razor sharp knees coming up towards your head. Now, one of the best Thai clinchers or plum clinchers ever in MMA in his prime was Vanderlei Silva. Okay, go back to the classic days of shoot boxing. Famous combination. They would throw a 1-2, catch you in a plum, knee, knee, knee. Okay, they were famous for it. That formula could have worked really, really well for Islam Makhachev. Watch every single time he caught Volkanovski in a plum, he scored. And he stuffed Volkanovski's punches, and Volkanovski adopted defensive postures. Now, in one instance, Volkanovski blocked the hip and was kind of grappling back. What Islam Makhachev needed to do was no longer knee, but elbow. Because when they block your knees by putting their hand on your hip, you're supposed to elbow. And he didn't do it, okay? Because he probably doesn't know. He doesn't know the counter to the Volkanovski's actions. These can be easily corrected in the practice room. So if you're asking me what I would have changed with Makhachev in the fight live that night, I would have told him to go to the plum more often, right away. Even when Volk had Islam on the cage, Islam kind of went for a rake or a maneuver in wrestling where you can turn it into a plum and you can see Volk disengage. Volk wanted nothing to do with the plum. Because every time he got caught in the plum, he can't punch and he's getting kneed. So it could have made a massive difference in the fight. Massive.